today, what I want to do is I want to go over everything that we went over last week very quickly. So recap everything that we talked about, take any questions from you, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper into some of Station Playlist and what it can do for you. So if you remember, I talked about Station Playlist itself being a toolkit, and the fact that I gave the example that if we were building a house, we would have all these assets available to us to build the house. We would have bricks, we would have roofing tiles, we would have timber, we would have cement, nails, all that stuff to build a house. And then Station Playlist would come along like the trailer full of tools. It would be all the hammers, all the saws, the power tools, the nail gun, everything like that. And that would then enable us to use the assets and put them together to make this house. Now, but what Station Playlist can't do for us is design. So we still need to know what it is we're building. We need to know the design. We need to know the plan for what we're trying to achieve with our radio station. And that's where the presentation by John Fabrin comes in, because as he said, we need to identify our audience. Who is it our radio station is trying to reach? And once we've identified who it is, then we can survey them or use other ways to find out what their needs are. So if our target audience is 30 to 40-year-old female, then what are 30 to 40-year-old females doing? They're young mothers generally. They have kids at school. They're probably trying to. They often would do involved in cooking and meal preparation. They're probably trying to balance the budget. So programs that meet those needs are what we should be putting into our radio program. And then once we know that, once we have a plan, then we can use Station Playlist to build the program that best meets, as a radio station, it's going to best meet the needs of our audience. So that by way of introduction. That's what Station Playlist will do. Station Playlist is simply the toolkit. And the more skilled we are using these tools, the better we can become at building a radio station. So if you remember, we looked at two distinct parts of Station Playlist. We looked at the, I'm just going to share my screen with you. We looked at the Station Playlist creator, and we looked at studio. The other two parts we're looking at, and the other two parts we will continue to look at today, primarily. If you remember, studio, let me just get rid of all these buttons on my screen. Right, studio, this is what the radio station ends up with, and the play out, what it's playing. So at the moment, this radio station will be playing The Mountain by Stephen Curtis Chapman. And then next it's going to play a God Spot by Carl Faze. And after that, it's going to play a Cold ID. And then it's going to play another song, Sunshine by Stella Cart. This is what the radio station sounds like. This is what we end up with. But in order to build that, we use the other part of Station Playlist, which is the creator part. Now, remember, we talked about the building blocks. When we're talking about building a house, we have bricks, tiles, timber, nails, all that stuff. Well, in Station Playlist, those assets that we have, the building blocks that we have, are our music, our spoken programs, our station IDs, and our announcer input. Those were the four things we talked about. You remember, four things that we have as our basic assets. We have all our music, we have all our spoken programs and station IDs and everything, and then we have our
announcers.
Sorry? You okay?
Okay.
No, okay. Sorry. so we have our music, we have our IDs and spoken programs, and we have our announcer input. And for the purposes of last week and again this week, I'm actually ignoring the announcer input because at the moment I don't think you do any announcer input into your station either. You don't have any live announcers on your station as yet. So we'll get into that. That will be further down the track in the training. So we're not there yet. But so we've got these elements. And remember we talked about in the music, when it comes to music, we define our music under different categories. So we categorize our music. We put all our music into various categories. And the categories, again, this flows from your target audience. So the number of categories that you have within your music library is really determined by how much control you want to have over the sound of the music of your station. You can just have one category and put all your music in there, and station playlists just randomly pick songs and play them. That can happen. But if you want station playlist to have a more upbeat music, more brighter music in the breakfast show and in the afternoons and then early evenings, and then after, say, 8 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night, you want the music to be a bit quieter, and overnight you want it to be quite mellow and chill music, and then from 6 o'clock in the morning it's all bright and bubbly again. In order for you to be able to do that, you have to think about the categories that you're going to put your music into. So, and remember, the other thing I spoke about was the importance of being tidy and organized. And I can't overstress this. If you're not tidy and you're not organized, if you have bits and pieces everywhere, then it's going to be incredibly difficult for you to manage everything going forwards, because you've got to have all this intimate knowledge of where you put things and where everything is. But if you're tidy and you're organized and you have a system and you actually write it down, you have written instructions for how things will be done with our radio station, then other people can help you. And that's going to be important as your radio station grows, because as your radio station grows, one person cannot do everything. So you'll require other people to help do bits and pieces. And if the system's organized and it's clearly written down for the instructions on how to do it, other people can come along and help and really make the radio station take off. So remember, we talked about the example on the screen. This is our categorization for a Pacific Island station. In this case, this is a radio station that is in the Solomon Islands. And you'll see that we actually have a Solomon's music category here. And we actually have a Pacific worship category, so that we get the Pacific sounding worship music. In fact, we could have a Solomon's worship category if I wanted to be able to play a specific Solomon worship song at any time. So, and again, the way I have categorized this is basically, you will see that, sorry, that's my dog barking in the background. Zach, sorry about that. Such is the working from home situation. Anyway, moving right along. So the categorization that sorry, I'm just going to have to deal with my dog.
Okay, sir. No problem.
What are you doing? Hello. Sorry, I'm just on the video call. I can't go. So, do that.
Can I give you this?
Sure.
So one of them soy milk, which we're not going to have and I can't have, and then the two almond milk, and coconut oil, not coconut oil, coconut milk with
Okay. Okay. Well, just go. Really good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Have a good day.
Right. Yes. Sorry about that. There was a neighbour at the door. Again, working from home. Right, going back. The music categories that I have chosen are actually, they line up exactly with music that I've put into specific folders. So if you go into our audio folder, music folder, our main playlist, you'll see that the category, the folders here very much line up with the categories. So, for example, the Christmas category is actually just the Christmas folder. And the reason I have done that is one, for tidiness, just makes sense. But two, what it means, and this is the way that Station Playlist works, is currently there are 227 songs in our Christmas playlist. If I want to add more songs to my Christmas playlist, I simply need to drop them into this folder. Here's all 227 songs in our Christmas playlist. Okay? Because these are in that folder, if I just drop another song into that folder, the next time that Station Playlist comes along and is creating a schedule for tomorrow, or generally Station Playlist default is to do 2 days in advance. So when it creates a schedule for today and for tomorrow. So in this case, let's pretend it's done today, schedule's tomorrow schedule. It comes along to do the schedule for Friday. And when it opens up, it rescans those folders. It will see that there's actually 228 songs in there now, and it will just choose its schedule from all those songs. So I don't actually have to go into Station Playlist at all and tell it that there is new content it needs to look at, because of the way I've set it up is that it always looks in that folder and every song that's in that folder. And if I was to see this little button here, include subfolders. If I tick that and I had subfolders in that folder, it would automatically look at those as well. So you can use, this is just the way Station Playlist works, because you can, like I've done here for the heavier tracks, for example, I've actually identified some of the individual tracks that are heavier tracks in our playlist and put them in. And that's an individual track. That's Switchfoot song Awakening is a heavier track, okay? But it's also in our gold up category. So it will come around in our gold up category. But if I want to have a specific youth rage type, midnight on a Saturday night, we're going to play some, really, really rocking music, some of the more up tempo, heavier tracks, all that sort of stuff. Then in order to be able to find them, I've got a folder called heavy tracks. I've actually got a folder that's just got some in it. They're the only ones. That's the only time those ones will get played. But some of the other songs in our regular playlist that are up tempo, I'll put those in there as well. So Station Play. So you can put a mix of files and folders into a category. Generally, my rule is I'll pretty much only put a folder in there unless there are specific files that I want to add in over top of that as well. Okay, does that make sense? Yep, Deepak's nodding. That's always a good sign. So the way Station Playlist works, in my gold up category, for example, or my current up category, for example, 177 tracks in there. Deepak just releases a new song. It's really upbeat. It's current. It's new. I want to put it on the radio. I simply take the MP3 file and I dump it, Deepak's new song, into my current up category. I'll just dump it in there. And then next time Station Playlist comes to schedule the music, Deepak's song will be available to be scheduled as anytime it goes to choose a current up song. There will be 123 or 122 songs plus Deepak. So there'll be 123 songs in there for it to schedule from. So again, the reason I've done this way is so that I can add music to the playlist, take music out of the playlist, adjust the playlist without actually going into Station Playlist at all and telling it that I need, that these songs are in or these songs are out. I do it all through just putting music in these folders, taking music out of these folders. Okay, that's why.
So the playlist chooses a song according to the date wise or the current songs, or how it chooses
Okay, good question. Very good
yeah.
question, Deepak. So station playlist, and I mean this is skipping ahead, but we'll go through. So we created these different rotations, and then we used those rotations to create the schedules. So the rotation, for example, if I look at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the rotation that I've used for 1 o'clock in the afternoon weekdays, it's going to choose a song from the Pacific category. So it will play the top of the hour, it will play the Bible verse. Then it's going to play the program Running with Fire. Then it's going to play a cold ID. I've told it to play a cold ID. So it's just a Life FM or there's no music under that one. Then it's going to play a fresh special song. And then it's going to play a Pacific song. Okay. So at the moment, let's look at the Pacific songs. There in my Pacific category, there are 217 songs it can choose from. So if your new song, Deepak, is a Pacific reggae song, and I put it in there, there's now 218 songs it can choose from. So it will choose one of those 218 songs to play there. And the way it will choose it, if we actually look at the track list momentarily, and if I go to my Pacific tracks, again, in the last 7 days, the song Amen by Fresh Off the Boat has been scheduled 3 times.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can see that there are songs scheduled 3, most are scheduled 2 or 1 once over the last 7 days, and some of them haven't been scheduled at all. And some of those are because they have date restrictions on those songs, but others just it hasn't scheduled them in the last 7 days. So of those 217 songs, if you were listening to my radio station for the last 7 days, you would only have heard, so for example, you would have only heard, and you listen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you would have heard Christopher's He Is Greater Than I twice. Okay. And in fact, I can actually look at, if I open that up in the track tool, where's it gone? Just wait for it to arrive. Yep. And if I look at that, oops, that's not what I want to do. Sorry, bad. What do I want to do? Properties. If I look at the track properties and I look at the history, I can see that song, now just bear in mind that this radio station hasn't been playing, so it hasn't been scheduling regularly, okay? But it was scheduled to play on the 21st at 2 p.m. And it was scheduled, before that it was scheduled to play on the 15th of the 6th at 6, just after 6 o'clock. And they were the times it was scheduled, but these are the only times they actually played. And the reason that's so different, again, is because this is on my laptop and I'm not actually, this is radio station isn't going at the moment. So if I looked at a radio station that was actually going, there'll be a lot more shit. The played would equal the scheduled much closer. Okay. But in this case, it's scheduled it, but it hasn't played it. And the reason it hasn't played it is because I didn't have the radio station played it. It was stopped. So that information is all around in the background. And this is actually key information as well, okay? Because the reason Station Playlist knows when it's scheduled a song or scheduled a program, same. And if or not it's been played, is because Station Playlist actually writes a little piece of information onto the MP3 file. So when it schedules it, it writes a piece of information onto the MP3 file. When it plays it, it writes a piece of information onto the MP3 file. So this information is always available to you from within Station Playlist. Now, the reason that's important, and this is something that Sunil and I went over briefly with him when we were talking about Radio Shemaki, is that if, and this is actually important. It's hard to get your head around, so please ask me to explain it again if you don't get it. But it's important you get your head around it. Let me just go back to our spot groups. See, if we're going to play Faith in the future, the next item to be scheduled is the Book of Revelation, 7 Churches, Part 1, MP3. Okay, that's the next program that is going to be played in Faith in the future. Now, if I go, oh, actually I need to create a new schedule, and I need to create a new schedule for today, even though it's already done today's, and I go start, let me just overwrite the existing. Yep. So I'm going to do this. What's going to happen is when I go back to, just let it do its thing. And hopefully it doesn't prove me wrong, because I haven't actually practiced doing this before. But what it will do is it will actually skip, even though it was scheduled to schedule that one next time, but it will think it's already played that one, and so it will go and skip on to the next one. Now that's okay for music, because it doesn't actually matter if the song gets played or doesn't get played. So now if I open that up, so it's actually scheduled. The next one is part 3. So it thinks it already played part 1 and part 2, because it had already scheduled those previously, and now the next one it's going to play is part 3. Now, the reason that's important is because, let me go into here for a moment. So we go into, if we look at the programs on our radio station and we look at a new beginning, and no, a new beginning is not a good example. A different perspective is a good example. No, it's not. Ring of Fire, is that a good example? Yes. Running with Fire is a great example. See how Running with Fire here, we have part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and part 5 for Running with Fire on this. This is a series. They're Running with Fire when Tak Bana puts together the Running with Fire series. He's putting it together with the intention for it to be played Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, five times a week. So when he puts it together, so part 1 is a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So it's all a series that goes through. And so when you hear when you listen to Running with Fire with Tak Bana on a Monday, you'll say this. He might say, "Welcome along to a new week with Running with Fire. This week we're going to be talking about the power of speaking blessing," and then you'll go into the program. And then when you get to part 5, at the end of the program, you say, "Well, that's the end of this week's session on the power of blessing. Tune in again on Monday when we start a new series here with Running with Fire," or something. So that will be part of the audio that he's got in the program. So it's important that we play Blessing Part 1 on a Monday, Blessing Part 2 on a Tuesday, Blessing Part 3 on a Wednesday, etc., because that's the way it works. Now, if we go and we want to create our schedule for station playlist, let's go to Running with Fire. Where is Running with Fire got to? There it is. And today is Thursday, and the next time, and we've scheduled today and tomorrow already, so the next one will be Friday. So that's wrong. That's going to play a Wednesday slot on Friday. So we actually need to change that to a Friday one. So the next time it does it is Friday, because we've already created the schedule for today and for tomorrow. And the next schedule station playlist will create is Friday, so it needs to be a Friday one that it chooses. And we can set that up and be perfect, and that's the job done, all good, until you go, "Oh, I made a mess up with the schedule. I need to reschedule and make a new schedule," and then that will stuff that up again. So it's important that we actually let Station Playlist manage the processes as much as we can, because if you look at, if you think this is just one program for Running with Fire, we've got Set Free, we've got the Word for Today, we've got Today with Jeff Bynes, we've got Why Israel, we've got all these other programs. If I overwrite the schedule, if I go, I need to write a new schedule and overwrite the existing one, I'm going to put all these programs out of sync, assuming we've gone to the trouble of putting them in sync in the first place. Now that sounds confusing. Do you understand what I'm trying to say though? Does that make sense? You have to unmute yourself if you want to talk.
Yes, somehow.
Yeah. So
for me, a little bit hard to understand the last part you telling me.
you want me to say it again?
For me, it's hard to understand which you telling the last in.
Okay. Okay. I will try again.
Yeah, I will catch it. You go ahead.
Yep.
Now.
No, that's fine. And you need, yeah. Look, please ask if you don't understand. Okay. You understand what I was saying, that the Running with Fire program is designed as a Monday to Friday program. So Running with Fire, this program, is designed as to play part 1 on Monday, part 2 on Tuesday, part 3 Wednesday. Because, and again, let me just explain it. Tarek Rana, who is the host of this program, may well say, yesterday we talked about this. Today we're going to carry on talking about the speaking blessing, blah, 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 and then he'll carry on. Or we may refer, we may say this is the third in our series on speaking blessing.
So excuse me. So, but the one who is speaking live, is it, or that is also recorded?
Speaking what? Speaking blessing, part 1.
I mean, the one who is kind of talking like a host.
Yes.
That is also recorded, or you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So this program, if you were to listen to this program, well, here you go. I'll just play you the first part of part 1. Okay, you'll hear it.
Want to win in life challenges? Know the will of God and have more passion for Him? Practical help right now with Tark Barner and Running with Fire.
Thanks for joining me this week, and what I want to look at is the incredible power that's released when we speak words of blessing.
Okay, does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's baked into the program.
Yes, I got it.
So, and at the end, it will say something like,
For more information, to make contact.
"Wow,
And never victorious. Because how good will be at that? What feel blessing or cursing? Then you actually have to live in the very atmosphere that your own words have created. One of the greatest victories you and I will ever win in life is if we can learn to control the words that come out of our lips and be people who speak blessing and not cursing, people who speak positively and not negatively. That one thing could have the most dramatic impact on our lives than almost anything else.
Tark Barner is the senior pastor of Church Unlimited in Auckland, New Zealand. For more
So that's the end of the program, okay? So then tomorrow's program will start with this.
Want to win in life challenges? Know the will of God and have more passion for Him? Practical help right now with Tark Barner and Running with Fire.
Psalm 109, verse 17 to 19, as he loved cursing.
Okay, so he doesn't. I'll just see if he may just say. Let's see what this is the last one. Okay, so this is
Want to win in life challenges? Know
this is
the will of
Friday's
God
program.
and have more passion for Him? Practical help right now with Tark Barner and Running with Fire.
This week we've been looking at the power of speaking blessing. The words that come out of our mouths have incredible power. Proverbs 18.
So you see how he said this week we've been talking about. So it makes sense that Monday's program gets played on Monday, Tuesday, gets Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So he's designed this as a program to be played Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So the best way for it to sound good on our radio station is for us to play Monday's program on a Monday, Tuesday's program on a Tuesday. The station playlist will do that for us, because what we will do in station playlist, when we first set it up, when we first add in the Running with Fire program, and we need to know what day it is today. So today's Wednesday, okay? So we need to choose a Wednesday program for it to start on. So we'll say, okay, start on that one, okay? So it's 3. We go, okay. And because I'm playing Running with Fire twice in the day, I need to make sure, and I want them to play the same program, I need to go and tell it to do the same one. So that means, okay, so now I've got that. I save my changes. Then I go to create my playlist for today. And it's going to create today and for 2 days, as it says. Okay. And so, yep, it's going to overwrite. And now, once it's done its thing, it will have created a playlist that has a Wednesday, it starts on a Wednesday program because today's Wednesday. Okay? But I will wreck that, and it should just assume that I did the same thing for all the spoken programs and set them all to start on the right day. Okay? I will break that if I come in here tomorrow and create a new schedule, because Station Playlist has already created a schedule for tomorrow. And so it is tagged that, it is written to, it is written a little bit on this audio file to say that I have played this on Wednesday and I've played this on Thursday, or I've scheduled this for Thursday. So the next time I tell it to build a schedule, it's going to choose this program. Okay. So if I was to go into Station Playlist, and I'll just show you what I'm talking about. If I go into my track list and my spot categories, and I go to Running with Fire, so the last scheduled, there you go. It is scheduled Power Speaking Blessing 3. Remember, that's what we did? It scheduled it for today. Scheduled the Power Speaking Blessing 4 for tomorrow. Okay? And so it will schedule, because it's been told to do the scheduling in alphabetical order, and because these programs are in alphabetical order very carefully, it will schedule that one on Friday. So Station Playlist has scheduled these programs as that. So next time you run a schedule on Station Playlist, if Station Playlist is left to its own, it will run its next schedule or build the next schedule on Friday. And that'll be good, because it will then pick the next song, the next track in that series, which is the Friday one. And that's perfect. But if I go into Station Playlist and tell it, I need you to reschedule today's program, it will think it's already played. It's already done Wednesday and Thursday, or number 3 and number 4. So it will choose number 5, and it'll play number 5 today, because that's the schedule I told it to create, and that will put everything back out of sync again. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Yes? Yeah. So the point is, the Station Playlist is very powerful and very clever, but it's all like every computer, it's very particular. It will do exactly what it's told to do and exactly what it's designed to do, and it doesn't think for itself. And if you remember, one of the other things we talked about last time is the whole garbage in, garbage out. It is very powerful. It will play whatever you give it, but it can't make it sound brilliant if it sounds like horse manure. So if Deepak records a new ID for the station and it sounds like, that's what's going to come across the air. It can't be cleaned up. So if your music is not recorded nicely, if your spoken programs aren't recorded nicely, they won't sound nice on the radio. If your announcing breaks, they sound like, if they're using a microphone that sounds like, then that's what's going to come across your radio station. Station players can't play that. So it's very clever, it's very particular, it doesn't care what it plays, it'll play just whatever audio it is you give it. So you've got to be disciplined and high quality audio into it so it can play high quality audio out. Yeah. So when we're going back to, can I leave that now? Is that okay? Have I done enough on the particulars of scheduling and scared you a little bit about scheduling? And you know, if you go in there and play with the schedule and overwrite your schedules, you're going to stuff up things that you need to think about, or potentially stuff up things you need to think about. So we talked about the music categories. So they're pretty self-explanatory. You will have different categories for your station depending on how you want to define the sound of your radio station. You might have Nepali worship. You might have Nepali songs. You might have. So I don't know what the categories are that you've chosen exactly. I could actually have a look, I guess, but I won't just now. But whatever you've decided, that's the toolkit you've got for defining how your radio station sounds. Now, let's dive a little deeper in there, and I'll just show you some of the other things that you can do. But again, it comes back to how good the product that you're putting into Station Playlist is. So if you've done, if you go into Station Playlist and you with your track list categories current. If you've been in Station Playlist and you've gone into your track list and looking at your categories up here, so in this case I've chosen my current up category, you'll see that the Spinning World song by Simeon, cue position is 0 and the intro is 17.1 seconds long. Now this Station Playlist can automatically find you the cues and the segue and the duration marks for your songs. It will do that as an automatic thing. You just you control all, and then you go into your track tool. I think I am in my track tool. There we go. And there they are. And then you can do a file scan, and it will scan them all and give you a cue and an overlap position for your songs. But what it can't do automatically is it can't find the end of the introduction, because Station Playlist isn't clever enough to differentiate between music and singing. So when it comes to Tiger Town Paper Note, for example, that's got intro of tempo. Now I think if I play this here, you don't hear it. Let me know if you hear this. Can you hear that? So watching the time here, the intro is set. Okay, so you could hear.
भाइ तपाईको mic off गर्नु न. I mean
I can. Oh, yeah, cool. Okay, so I have set. We have been through our music library, and for every single song in our music library, we have set, and it's not on my screen because this is an old version, but every single song in our music library, we have set the introduction duration, and we can test it. Okay, so that's the point where the singing starts. Okay, and the reason we've done that is so that station playlist will start playing a song. It will then drop the level of that song to a predetermined lower level, and then it will play a cold ID for your radio station, and then it will bring the music up and continue into the song. So you'll hear the intro start. Let me just, like, I can't emulate this here for you, but you hear the music start. Okay, and the level will drop down a little bit, and it'll say, "You're listening to Life FM here at #1 station here in the Solomon Islands," and then the music will come back up and it will continue. So that is overlap. That's putting a cold ID over top of a music introduction. And two things with that. One is you never want music over top of music, so you only ever use a cold ID, one that's just voice. You should never want music over music. Otherwise, that just sounds awful. Really, really awful. But the other thing with that is this station playlist needs to know how long it's got to fit that ID over top of the introduction of the song. And that's why it's important that you actually go through your library and see, for this one, nothing compares. We don't have an intro set for that. So I would need to play this. I'm hovering over the set button. Okay. So I clicked on set. Now I know I'm always a wee bit slow on my clicking, so I'll just take it back a few milliseconds, set it there, and we'll test. Close enough. Okay, so now that intro is set. So station playlist knows it's got 14 seconds of introduction to use if it wants to put a station sweeper over the top of that. Some other song, and the reason that's important is because some songs go straight in. Some songs, the introduction 0, for example, like this one. No. That's not a good example. Try that one.
Rick, Craig.
So this guy's talking.
Yeah.
So because he's going, yeah, nah, yeah, you don't want someone trying to say, "You're listening to Life FM" over the top of that. So that's why the introduction set at 1 second. This one, straight in. There is no room for any overlap on that song whatsoever. So station playlist needs to know that, and the way it knows that is the introduction is set for 0, 0, 0, 0. Just bang, straight in the song. The cue position, while I'm in here, the cue position is the position in the song that station playlist starts to play it. Now, if you get some music, it starts with some really long, wishy-washy stuff. It might have ocean sounds and the breeze going through the trees, and so let's try this one and see what this sounds like. That didn't work. Try something else. Hang on. Stop. Cue position. Let's go cue position here also. See that? So it starts. So what we have done is we've set the cue position at 2 seconds. So when we play the station song, it goes. Oops. Goes. So it's just on that. So we haven't got that part. We've chopped that out. We're just straight into the music. Another example.
Mercy is a song.
Okay, you probably couldn't even hear, but there was a drone keyboard going in there. But as far as radio is concerned, you really wanted to start with that. Mercy is a song. So
Mercy is a song.
okay, we've left some of the in there, but we've chopped out 2.5 seconds of it. We could actually chop out more. You could make the cue position probably 4 seconds quite happily.
Mercy is a song.
Okay, so now station playlist.
Singing to my heart.
So now station playlist will cue it when it's going to cue that song. It will cue it at 4 seconds into all that. So that's what the cue position is. Okay, and then as I say, the intro position is where the singing starts, which is pretty much straight away on that. And the outro position is some songs, fade out and they may have ad libs and stuff on the end. Now you can go into something like Adobe Audition or into Audacity and physically chop the song to the right length if you want to, but station players can also handle that for you if you want to set an outro position on the song. I think it's outro. I'd need to actually, don't quote me on that. I need to double check whether it's outro or the segue position. But there are a number of songs we use. Christafari put out an album, and every song on their album had the song finished, and then there'd be like a second gap, and then there'd be this noise on the end of every single song. You don't want to play that on your radio station. So you need to, we actually went into the songs and physically chopped them off so that we could never get. But again, station players can handle that for you, but you need to tell it. And so that's what I'm saying. The rubbish you put into your radio station or the rubbish you put into your audio is the rubbish you'll get out. If you're good with your audio, you'll get a good sound coming out. And this type of work, it only has to be done once. You only have to go through all your music library and tidy it up once. But when you do it and it's tidy, that's when your radio station really starts to sound better. So, being organized, follow the guidelines. Yeah. So that's pretty much sort of what we covered last time, and I'm just aware of the time that we've done our hour. But does that, building that on top of what we talked about last time, is that giving you a better understanding of what station playlist is and giving you a little confidence about what you can touch and what you can't touch, what's a good idea to touch, and the consequences? It's not that you can't do things, but there are consequences to everything you do. So you need to know what the consequence of you doing something is. Yeah. So any questions, I guess? Any questions at this stage?
Not for. I had a question before when you started the training. That time I'm confusing about this. When putting the song into the spot, there is a two option. One, you can put including folder. You can put it the song folder directly to the spot. Another thing is you can put the songs individual, like 250 songs you have, for example, and you can put 250 songs into the what do you call categories.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
categories. And one thing you can do, directly put the folder directly also, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but when I'm doing here, I don't know. I'm putting the individual songs only, like the 250 songs that I have, or 50 songs. What is the difference between you putting the directly folder into the categories or putting the individual songs? What
Okay.
will make difference?
In one sense, there is no difference. Okay, you can do it that way if you want to. But the reason I'm suggesting that it's not a good practice to get into is because in 6 months' time, if you want to change the sound of your station a little bit, because as a radio, as the program director for your radio station, one of the things you're constantly doing is you're constantly changing your music. You're adding fresh tracks in, you're moving tracks that are becoming burnt or old into other categories, or songs that you go, I don't really want to play that one anymore. It's not sounding that good now. It was a great song for its time, but let's give it a rest for a few months, and we'll put it then in 3 months' time. We'll just add it into the normal rotation. So as a program director or as the music director for your station, you are constantly changing your music. You are adding fresh content to your sound. Okay, now that's an important part of any radio station, because you don't want the same thing to be the same old, day in, day out. They're hearing the same thing in 12 months' time that they heard 12 months ago. So in order to manage that process, you need to have set up a good set of guidelines and a plan, a structure that you will follow to do that. Plus, if Deepak suddenly gets promoted to CEO of the company, and Sunil, you have to become the new Deepak up at Message of Hope, then you have to know how he was doing things. So that's why you want to have a simple system that other people can understand. It's logical, it makes sense, and it follows through. So if you're going into your categories and you're going, okay, I'm going to create a new category, and I'm going to call this category just because I can, Grant's favorites. Okay, and now I'm going to add files, and I'm going to add files. Here we go. Just let this catch up with me. Okay, oops, I'm going to put that onto the right screen. Okay, so I'm going to add files. So these are my favorite songs. So I'm going to go into my gold up category, and I'm going to add those songs because they're part of my favorites. So I'm going to add some more. Actually, I've got a song on my desktop I'm going to add because that's one of my favorites. There it is. I'm going to add that. I'm going to add. Actually, there's one in my music folder and my documents here in my I don't know if I've got any audio files in there. Very, very little music on my computer. But if I'm going all over the place, into different folders and getting my songs, then someone might come along on this computer and go, I need to tidy up this computer. Okay, so I've now got Grant's favorites. I've got those tracks in there. Someone might come along on my computer and go, you know what? We need to tidy up this computer. Oh, what's all this rubbish on the desktop? I'll just delete. And now it's broken because station playlists can no longer find that song because that song was on my desktop. Okay, but because you've been disciplined and you've gone, you know what? All our music is going to live in this audio file. We've got a file called audio, and all our music is going to live in our music folder. So that's the only place I put music. So go to main playlist, and maybe in here you put, you might have to be considered. They might, someone might give you a song and you dump that in there. And then when you listen to this, this is where you find Deepak's new song. And hang on, let me just grab an audio file just for a moment. That's an MP4. There we go. Copy that. So if I go back to there, so I'm just going to call that. There we go. We've got Deepak's new MP3 file here, and in the to be considered. And so when I'm looking at the music and I come in on, that song from Deepak, let me have a listen to it. You play it and go, yeah, it's pretty good. I'm going to put that into. I'm now going to move that and put it into our Nepali worship category because it's a good song. That's where it's going to go. So you dump it and put it in there, and now it's in there. But because that's all nice and contained and neat, it makes sense. It just makes sense. And anybody else can come along and go, you know what? I understand what's going on. But if the files are scattered all over the place and I've got this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, it's like, what the heck is going on here? And Shanti says, we're playing too much Nepali worship music on our station. I need you to reduce the amount of Nepali worship music we play on our station, or reduce the number of hymns that we play on our station. If you don't know how you've set it all up, it's really difficult for you to do that. But if your categories are set right, it makes it just so much easier. Yeah. So that's why. So yes, you could have one folder with every single piece of music in it, and you can go through and use your categories and just go and choose, okay, all my Christmas songs, this one, this one, this one, this one. So they're all my Christmas songs. And then you go through and choose, they're all my current up songs. You choose each one individually. But that relies on so much setup, and it also relies on a lot of expert knowledge by the person who's doing it. Whereas if it's just in a folder, it's just in a folder, and you know, you get a new song that's in the Nepali worship song, bung it in the Nepali worship folder, bang, it's in the system, and away it goes. You don't have to go, oh, I'll put it in the Nepali, I need to open the Nepali worship category, and now I need to add this new song into there. Oh, actually, this is a good example. The Pacific worship category, you will see that we have a Pacific worship, but if we go into, because this is a Solomon station, I actually, when I make the folder structure for our all our worship, and let me just go into the actual master library for a moment. So when we go to our main playlist, you'll see that there is Z National Fiji, Z National Indonesian, Z National PNG. And if you go into the Z National Solomons, for example, there's a whole lot of music, and then there's worship, regular, and kids. In fact, this stuff should actually be in the regular column, but there's kids. So in there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tracks that are kids. So when I go into here and I'm looking at my kids category, and because this is a Solomon Island station, I've got my kids music, which is my general kids music, but then I've got my Solomon Island kids music in here as well. Okay. So you can have a kids section which has, like, you know, the American church, you know, Claremont Kids and all those guys who do kids music. You have that, but you might have some Nepali kids music as well. So you could put that in a folder and put that folder in here as well, so it gets selected. And there are ways you can manage which gets selected more and which other, but that's for another day. But again, it really just makes sense to have a plan and to work the plan and to write down how it is you're doing things so that other people can understand. It's not so much for today, it's for 6 months' time, or the next person that comes along and has to learn what it is and follow on and build the program. Because when you took over the role, the last thing you want to have to do is try and figure out what the last guy did. Okay, so you want to be able to just step in and go, where's the documentation? There it is. Oh, okay. Or if I get some Christmas songs, I just dump them in the Christmas category. Sweet, I can do that. No worries. Yeah. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
yep. So your homework is to actually have a play with this a little bit. If you've got because you can actually, I want you to have a look at your music, your assets that you have available to you, and I want you to think about the categories that you currently use, and think about the current categories you should use for your radio station. Are the categories you're currently using, are they the best for what you're going to do? So that's for your categories and for your spot groups. You need to look at your assets, take stock of what you've got, and go, are we categorizing our music the best way to enable us to control the sound of our station for what we're trying to achieve? Are we categorizing our spot groups in the best way to control how we play our spots? That's your homework. And then if you can send that through to me before next week's, or we can talk about it next week, look at it together and think about, what is it we're trying to achieve with our music? What is it we're trying to achieve with our spots? how can we best categorize our music to enable us to get the sound of our radio station to the sound that we want it to be. Yeah. Is that good?
Okay. It's better to give us the written question. So we will read.